You want to be starting the podcast?
Ooh, I would love it if I could kick it off. Our sponsor today is watchtogether.com.
Episode 34.
Episode 34. Getting into our 30s.
And guys, our theme song is John Cale. This is Connecting the Classics, but this song came out in 1974. And we're all about the 80s.
It's all about
today.
the 80s.
This
all
is the 80s episode. So Lee, why don't you launch us into our next song that we're gonna talk over?
Cutting the John Cale. Getting a little Tarzan boy. Baltimore, some Italian disco. So when I was reading the wiki on this song, they were saying this is one of the first songs to feature what would become known as the millennial whoop.
Folks, welcome to Connecting to Classics. Folks, folk artists. Welcome to Connecting to Welcome to Connecting the Classics, episode 34. The 80s episode. This is a show where we connect the classics to classic albums using tangential references, Kevin Bacon style. And Lee, what album did you pick today?
I went with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Ooh, I gotta say, I've been riding around the past few days getting ready for this episode because I'm starting to treat these episodes, it's like, we do it once a week. It's like a football game, you know? It's like fantasy football. Yep. You gotta draft your lineup. You get your picks.
Yep.
Who's gonna win the game because there is a winner of each episode of Connecting the Classics, but we award each other points throughout each episode. So like for me kind of botching this intro, it might be -5 points, or if you like the intro, it might be +5 points. If you like Lee picking Tarzan Boy, you might give him
give me some points.
Yeah, give him some points. And then the points don't matter though, but there is a winner, and you can vote in the SurveyMonkey that we put in the show notes. And I actually got the results right here from last episode.
Oh, wow.
We've got the votes. The votes are in, folks. The votes are in.
Let's hear 'em. Real time.
And the winner with 100% of the votes in the SurveyMonkey, the LA Face, not the Oakland Booty. Lee
Bullshit.
is the Oakland Booty. I'm the LA Face. And it appears I have won episode 33. So I think I
want to recount.
Yeah, in the count, I think we're 1-2. I'm up 2-1-1. I think we've tied one. I don't know. We got to check the score. The points don't matter. We also had a listener write in to the question, what's your favorite summer album? And they said Beastie Boys, License to Ill.
Nice.
Fight for your right, no sleep till Brooklyn Brass Monkey, ...
Nice.
I respect that. Thanks for voting, listener.
I'm going to Venmo them $1. That's a good response.
Yeah. But I've been talking too much, so why don't you tell us about Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction?
Well, I think, let's set the record straight. You chose your album first. Mine is a response.
Okay.
So with that context, just get on the table that Will threw out Thriller, which is a really legendary album, and I had to think for a while what is a nice compliment to Thriller, and I ultimately settled on Appetite for Destruction. I wanted to do something that was in the rock or hard rock domain, because I feel like 80s to me is kind of like where rock sort of splinters off into all these like genres, like heavy metal and hardcore and all that shit. So Guns N' Roses to me is sort of the rock version of Thriller in a sense. At least I thought. And I think a great stat to back that up is it is the best-selling debut album of any band of all time.
Wow. And Thriller by Michael Jackson, if you didn't know, because Lee hasn't used his name, he just assumes that everyone in the world knows Thriller. Which they do, because it's the best-selling album of all time. And yeah, I picked Thriller just because, I don't know, I've always I feel like growing up, I'm a 90s kid, so I don't really know what I'm talking about because I didn't live during the 80s. but I feel like a lot of the music in the 90s was kind of like reaction against the 80s, like stuff like Nirvana was like a reaction to Guns N' Roses, even though I think actually Guns N' Roses is a little bit of an exception because they weren't exactly like a glam band, you know, and they had like other influences and stuff, and they're probably better musicians than just some of those like ridiculous bands. And I think maybe even Nirvana said that they were inspired by Guns N' Roses a little bit. I can't remember. I'm talking out of my ass, minus 5 points. But I will say Thriller, without a doubt, an objectively perfect song. And on that note, I want to be starting something. I'm making a power move, coming in with my first song. Michael Jackson, the first song on Thriller. Undisputed classic. I want to be starting something. This is Michael Jackson. Want to be starting something.
Interesting.
Why is that interesting?
I didn't expect you to pick this one.
What'd you expect me to pick?
I don't know, one of the good ones. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I feel like this is like an underrated song, and I've been listening to it almost every day. We got Horn Stabs.
This is the Say Mama Nasi Nasi, man.
Yeah. Mama say Mama sa Mama Kusa.
I said you wanna be starting something. You got to be starting something. I said you wanna be starting something. You got to be starting something.
Great way to pick off what I think is objectively the best album of all time.
Yeah, I will say it started slower. So I've never really sat down and listened to Thriller front to back either. And it definitely started out slower than I was expecting. I was kind of like gritting through Baby Be Mine, The Girl Is Mine. But then once Thriller kicks in, it really just like, it's hit after hit till The Lady in My Life, which is another kind of dud, but that's okay.
Yeah, I would say it'd be the perfect album, but you're right. The Lady in My Life, the last song kind of sucks. Human Nature, another like ballad that wasn't fully feeling, but
yeah,
it's good though.
Tough.
It's good. And this song is kind of giving me Talking Heads vibes.
Yeah, totally. That 80s kind of like new wave.
Yeah. But I feel like these days, so I was at a wedding last weekend, and the groom was saying absolutely no Michael Jackson or R. Kelly.
What? Really?
Because Michael Jackson. But
the Neverland. There's the Neverland documentary.
Yeah, which I actually haven't seen it. Have you seen it or no? But I feel like we can't talk about Michael Jackson without talking about it.
No, I didn't see it, but my coworker was telling me that it's pretty obvious he was guilty.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Reading about this album more, it's like pretty much a Quincy Jones album plus like all the other musicians who worked on it. I mean, it's obviously Michael Jackson's like vision,
but I think it's one of those classic albums where you have one person's vision but so many players like contributing to it, which is what creates that special like chemistry, I think.
Yeah, he's almost like a director of a movie or something.
Yeah,
because it's like
you got Eddie Van Halen doing his guitar solo on Beat It.
Nice, I didn't know that. Well, I saw that Beat It. They were trying to make it like a rock song, and I feel like when I was listening to it, I was like, this does sound like a cheesier version of like Guns N' Roses, kind of. And I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, Eddie Van Halen. I've talked about the story on the podcast when you did Weird Al. Did you do Eat It?
I think so, yeah.
But Eddie Van Halen came into the studio and did his solo in one take. And he just like blew everyone away, and they're like, okay,
nice.
Yep, we got it, thanks.
That's
He's
great.
like, all right, see you guys, and left. So whenever I hear that solo, I just think about that.
Yeah. Here's the Mama Say, Mama Sama Maku's out, which he actually got sued for this, apparently. I don't know if it was after he was already dead, but because Rihanna used this in one of her songs, too.
Yeah, someone sampled it, right?
Rihanna, yeah. And then, like, but apparently it was taken from, like, a Cameroonian artist or something. I feel like white people don't think about Michael Jackson. When I was like reading more about this album, just how Michael Jackson was like the first black pop star ever.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, I just feel like he's been like tainted by everything else that happened. And like, I don't know. I feel like Michael Jackson fans have been taken on a journey through a bunch of different emotions, and I'm going to be taking you on a journey tonight with my connections. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it back to Lee for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I think we'll get back to, I'm glad you brought it up at the end. We'll get back to Michael Jackson, first black pop star, later for my connection. So, but without further ado, I know you guys are hanging on the edge of your seats. Appetite for Destruction is essentially Guns N' Roses' greatest hits album without November Rain. They said they didn't want to put it on the album because they already had a ballad, and that ballad is Sweet Child, Oh Mine. It's a song I used
Guitar
for
Hero.
Our talent show junior year of high school. We placed third.
It's a tough one to
I think
play.
that's about where I would rank the song in terms of my favorite songs.
Wow, really?
That third tier.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a great song. Great bass line. I also feel like it's a good duality for Michael Jackson because, like, everyone was kind of a sleazebag in Guns N' Roses, and I feel like they embraced that, whereas, like, Michael Jackson had to do the opposite. He had to have, like, the cleanest image possible, and, like, everyone was constantly trying to, like, get dirt on him.
Totally.
But Axl Rose seems like such a dickhead.
Yeah. Speaking of dickhead, Michael Jackson. Never mind. It's
What?
a bad joke, but connecting the classic.
Little dick's head.
No, just there's probably a parent out there who is like Michael Jackson molested a sweet child of mine.
Nice.
You know, to quote another Guns N' Roses songs, making molestation jokes about Michael Jackson, number 2 on Appetite for Destruction. It's so easy. But this is connecting the classics, track 11, Anything Goes.
Nice. I thought it was interesting. I didn't actually ever know that Slash was not a part of the band LA Guns. So I don't know if you ever knew that, like, the story is It was basically like Axl Rose forming with a band called LA Guns.
Right.
That's how they got the name Guns N' Roses.
And LA Guns has like a good reputation of being like a
Yeah, and they were a pretty
seminal-
well-known like hard rock punk band. But I guess the guy that was the main guitarist dropped out, and that's when they brought in Slash.
Great solo right here. Big ass Slash. Slash always smoking a cigarette while playing guitar is hilarious.
With his leather pants.
Yeah. Top hat. Yeah, I was.
So I guess that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that opening riff was a like guitar training exercise that Slash was doing during one of the band practices, and they're like, "Wait, what is that? Keep doing it!" And then they formed the song around it.
Nice.
And so he thought it was just ridiculous that one of his practice like for the song. The way they thought of this is they're like, we need some kind of like bridge breakdown. He's like, I don't know what to say for it. It's like, and so the producer was like, well, where do we go? He's like, that's it. Where do we go? Where do we go?
Back.
I think I'm gonna go on a run.
Ooh.
Since we're still talking about Guns N' Roses, we're not sick of them yet. Axl Rose, born William Bruce Rose Jr. He's Scottish and Irish. That's why he's always wearing like the kilt. I don't know if you've ever seen videos with him with a kilt. But I was reading about that the original album cover was too controversial, because it was like a robot raping a lady, and it was had a lot of pushback from record stores. So they went with the one that you're familiar with the Celtic cross and the skulls. So that got me thinking about like the Catholic imagery. You've got the Celtic Catholics. I also associate like rosary beads. You know what I'm talking about?
Unfortunately, yeah.
And so with the rosary beads, got like Axl Rose, which makes me think of another band from the 80s, which has the name The Jesus and Mary Chain, which is essentially what I consider rosary beads. So just like a sweet child, oh mine, let's launch into The Jesus and Mary Chain. Just like honey. So sweet, you're just like honey. Honey.
Wow, talking about child molestation, Catholic Church,
Wow,
weaving
what a
webs.
tone. This is a great quintessential 80s band. Also at the end of Lost in Translation.
Is this like 80s goth, like the Smiths type of thing?
It's kind of like shoegazey
Yeah,
stuff.
I was thinking shoegazy.
Yeah.
Because they literally, shoegazing's literally like gazing down at your shoe, right?
I guess I haven't thought of that.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
I think it's just like pop with tons of distortion is what I think of it.
But I think the name comes from like how they would just, like in this video we're watching of Jesus and Mary Chain, they're just like,
Yeah, they're just looking down.
yeah, look down and like slowly playing anything without any, opposite of Guns N' Roses.
Totally. Album is called Psycho Candy.
Wow.
Just like your sweet child getting molested by
Oh my God.
Michael Jackson's Psycho Candy. But don't you say some kind of like prayer with rosary beads?
Yeah, it's like a series of you do like Hail Marys and Our Fathers.
Yeah, so Mary, Jesus. I think it is a reference to rosary beads, isn't it?
Jesus and Mary Chain, maybe.
Yeah. They're also Scottish, so maybe that's the Celtic connection. Another band that sounds like they're totally influenced by Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
This came out in 1984.
See, I feel like I really don't like all the bands that were like revivalist versions of this in like the 2000s, you know? Or like people who like really grew up loving this like period of the 80s and want to bring it back.
Totally.
You know, what's that song? Something about the 80s, but I'm a 90s bitch. I love it.
Appetite for Destruction was 1987, just for people keeping track at home. All right, passing it.
All right, so talking about Michael Jackson, want to be starting something. This band was started out in the 80s. They started out in the 70s. But they got popular in the 80s, and I'd say they're a quintessential 80s band. So even though the song is from the 70s, still counts. But anyways, to bring it back to Michael Jackson, you know, he might be a pedophile, right?
Yeah, I think he is.
So,
or a child molester.
So, when did you first think about that?
That he might be a child molester?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think teenage years.
When it was like all the rumors and stuff, and he was kind of like, I feel like he was like a meme before memes existed. Yeah, because South Park, and like he dangled the baby.
Yeah, and there was the like
he's literally white.
Scary Movie made a couple Michael Jackson jokes.
Yeah, and like he was like the butt of the joke, and just kind of a creepy guy.
Yeah, I think the face stuff really made him vulnerable for people to mess with him.
Yeah. And it's like no one really knew what was going on with that. Actually, a really sad story when you think about like the full life of Michael Jackson.
Totally.
But anyways, you know, I feel like a lot of people though, even though they know that he's a pedophile, it's just his music. You know, like your first reaction is like, you know, he might be a pedophile, but maybe he's just got an uncontrollable urge.
But just watch him moonwalk.
So this is Devo, Uncontrollable Urge.
So real quick, I got to throw in my fun fact about Mark Mothersbaugh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Mark Mothersbaugh is, I think he was the main guy. He's one of the guys in Devo.
Yeah, it's Devo is two pairs of brothers, Mark and Bob and Gerald and Bob.
So Mark Mothersbaugh was, did a lot of Nickelodeon soundtrack music.
Oh.
And he did the theme song for Rocket Power.
Oh, I can see that.
And this song kind of reminds me a little
Rocket
bit.
Power. Yeah.
Totally.
Also, Devo means de-evolution. Or the idea that instead of continuing to evolve, mankind has begun to regress and has a herd mentality. Which might be some people who are like hardcore Michael Jackson fans. They want to hold on to Thriller. They're like, just the world's just evolving, everyone's got the herd mentality. Michael Jackson's fine. You got to separate the art from the artist. We'll get back to that though. Gerald and Bob went to Kent State, where the Kent State shootings happened in the 70s. 1970, but this isn't about the 70s. But that was when the National Guard in Ohio shot the students who were protesting the military in Cambodia, and they killed 4 people. 4 dead in Ohio. Neil Young.
Yep.
But yeah, Devo. You like Devo? New wave pioneers.
Yeah, there's a couple songs I really like.
Goofy characters.
Totally goofy. Some of their music's too intense for me.
It was like an art experiment band.
Definitely.
I saw him at Lollapalooza. I like this part right here. It's like their version of a solo.
Yeah, some FM synthesis. They remind me a lot of like the American version of Kraftwerk.
But it's like rock more kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like we're German. I associate Germans with like being really logical and engineering
I know what you
and
mean.
very like calculated and like precise. And they're like very punk and uncontrolled energy and
uncontrollable
do whatever
urges
the hell they want.
And their de-evolution.
Totally.
I got an uncontrollable urge to go on a run, but instead I'm gonna pass it back.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right, so we were talking about rosaries and Guns N' Roses. We say roses are red, but what else is red?
Mars.
Yes, Mars is red. But talking more about the 80s, my brother says he's an 80s kid. Born in 1979, which I think is a little late. But if you're born in 1979, how old would you be?
How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
You'd be 40. So without further ado,
8Ds, 4Ds.
Let's launch into red wine.
That would be E40 from the 80s. Nice.
Nah, well, you be 40. Roses are red.
Wow.
Red wine is red.
We're going to be crossing so many streams tonight.
Another 80s hit. I think this one's actually 1984. The other one is 85.
I love this song.
Great song. Originally written by Neil Diamond.
Wow, I didn't know that. I'd give you 1,000 points for that.
Neil, he's got the hits. I'm all over the place here.
I'm going to give you minus 1983 points.
Thank you. I deserve it.
Stay close to me. Don't let me be in love.
I always thought this band was like, I had no idea they were a white guy from the UK.
Yeah. Playing reggae.
Yeah.
You know, at what point is it connecting the classics, and at what point is it cultural appropriation? It's a question we're asking tonight.
That would be a good one for the SurveyMonkey. Neil Diamond has stated this is one of his favorite covers of a song he's written. Also got to say, you know, wine doesn't get enough like blues ballads. People are always, you know, drinking whiskey, they're drinking beer. It's nice to get a red wine to drown your sorrows. All right, I'm passing it back. We didn't get the rap part at the end, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think because it was in the music video, they had the like radio edit. It didn't have the red wine make you feel so fine. I really thought I was gonna get you with the 1979 UB40. I thought that was pretty brilliant, but you didn't fall for that trap.
Wow, I think actually I'm just now getting it, so that is kind of brilliant.
If you were born in 1979, you'd be UB40.
Wow, that is good. I think I talked over it, so yeah, I'm gonna give you B40 points.
Hey, thanks.
Yep.
All right, passing it.
All right, so we left off. We're on a journey here. We're de-evolving. We left off with Devo, talking about Michael Jackson, herd mentality. People just don't want to believe it that he's a child molester. Did you ever go through a phase like that, or no? Or can you separate the art from the artist?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't. Okay, so I feel like a lot of people can't these days.
I guess it depends. It depends like how bad the crime was. That's true. Sometimes I can't.
Yeah, and like I feel like with me is like I do have some sympathy in some sense like for pedophiles, because it's like, you know, they probably just got an uncontrollable urge, or if it's like if they're Catholic priests, then it's like they've been repressed and everything. You know, it's like they're not just like straight up villains, or like Jared from Subway or whatever. But at the same time, it is like one of the worst crimes you can do. Like
Definitely.
Almost on par with murder, I feel, because
Definitely
it like affects people, messes up people for their entire lives.
100%.
But it is like, I feel like we don't think about it really. It's like you don't think about why people do it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, so I feel like even if your favorite artist has committed one of the worst crimes ever, not that Michael Jackson's my favorite artist, but for a lot of people he probably is, you know.
Definitely.
You might think he's got an uncontrollable urge, but you know, I'm going to keep on loving you. So this is REO Speedwagon, Keep On Loving You.
Champaign.
Yep, band from Champaign, Illinois, baby.
You should have seen by the look in my eyes, baby. There was something missing.
1980. Can you give me 1980 points for a band from Champaign?
Yeah, that's pretty good. You've been waiting for this one.
Champaign, where I'm from, has honorary REO Speedwagon Way.
They should name all your HOV lanes the REO Speedwagons.
Like Devo, it was Devo met in college. Or they didn't meet in college, but they went to the same college. REO Speedwagon went to University of Illinois, where they formed. named after the Rio Speedwagon, a 1915 truck that was written on the blackboard of their history of transportation class when they were trying to name the band.
And I'm gonna keep on loving you, 'cause it's the only thing I wanna do. I don't wanna
But Michael Jackson, I'm just gonna keep on loving you.
keep on loving you.
Says the people still listening to Ignition Remix. They just want to keep on loving R. Kelly, even though they know the crimes. Guitar solo. I feel like you'd be more. Don't you like soft rock, right?
Yeah. Some. I like some.
Not this.
This is all right.
REO Speedwagon, classic 80s band.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, though, this was actually on their 9th album, High Infidelity.
Wow, so they're cranking it out by this point.
No, but this was like the first album where they got popular. So they were like plugging away, making albums, and they didn't really break through until their 9th album. I think it's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Keep on loving you, 'cause it's the only thing I wanna do. I don't wanna sleep, I just wanna keep on.
So, if this is an okay time, I want to pitch you my sort of idea, thinking about the 80s as their like time and place in American history. To me, that what really stuck out, and I think it sort of comes back to what you were talking about overindulgence, is the 80s to me was the beginning of, I think, this current beginning of federal deficit, slashing taxes and letting sort of American corporations go crazy, all in the name of, I think, encouraging growth, and keeping economic growth. Whereas like in the 70s, there was horrible recessions and
It was
kind of chaos.
Extreme capitalism in response to Soviet Union's extreme.
Almost to a detriment. But I almost feel like because we haven't changed that script up, it's obviously worked to some degree. For the most part, we've pretty much continually grown since the 80s. Definitely aided by the internet. But I think that lines up with your self-indulgent theory as well. But just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm going to give you minus 10 points.
What?
All right, and I'm passing it back.
Wow, thanks for that. All right, so we were talking about 1979. So my brother was born. He's 40. He says he's an 80s baby. I guess I'll give it to him. He was like 10 by the end of the 80s. But another thing that was born in 1979, which...
Would you not call yourself a 90s baby?
I guess you're right. All right, we'll give it to him.
He's technically a 70s baby.
He's an 80s baby. No way.
Well, he was born in
He's
1979, but he's an 80s kid.
80s
born
kid,
in the 70s.
Kid, sorry.
It's like rap, Technically, it was born in the 70s, but didn't really get going until The Message in 1984.
Yeah. So
that was one connection I wanted to do, but didn't end up doing.
Nice, squeezing it in there on top of my connection.
I feel. I was gonna say we should do a new segment where we just
where Will interrupts my connection.
Yeah,
every
well,
time.
that's every segment, but I feel like we should do a segment where it's just all the songs that we should have done.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, all right. So, anyways, the Fairlight CMI was what was created in 1979, and that was sort of the first digital sampler. Which to me, that's another thing when I think about the 80s, is it's the beginning of sampling, which would go on just like economic policies. I think it would also go on to be something that defined music for up until even now. So a great example, one of the first uses of a Fairlight,
like Rihanna sampled Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
Who sampled Cameroon?
So she wouldn't have been able to do that without a Fairlight. But one of the first uses of it is by a band called Art of Noise. This is 1985. The song is called Moments in Love.
Love, keep on loving you.
Exactly.
I like this beat.
Yeah, way ahead of its time.
I've never heard this.
I want to do the lean with it, rock with it dance to this.
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to spit a verse over this.
Lean with it, rock with it. So surprisingly, the Fairlight was invented in Australia. I thought the U.S. invented everything, but I guess not.
They would invent a sampler, an island of thieves.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you points for that. 10 points.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, I've been meaning to tell you, I saw someone at work the other day wearing a Powerline shirt.
Wow.
As in Powerline from a Goofy movie.
Wow. We talked about that last episode, and it appears Connected to Classics is so popular that people are wearing shirts after the episode. Oh, that's cool, though. Damn, I like this.
Yeah, it's pretty ahead of its time. Basically, this was the beginning, and then other like similar models came out later, like the SP12. You ever heard of that? A lot of rappers.
No. What are they
ended up
sampling
using
here?
SP12.
Do you know?
It's
Is that your next
the
connection?
drum. Those like drums. No. The synths are real, but the drum sounds. And then at the very beginning, when you heard those sort of like orchestral strikes, that was samples. So that's a sample too.
So is the Art of Noise? Were they a popular band or no? Popular group? I like.
I don't know if they
I
got
kinda wanna check out
tons
some
of
more.
mainstream success, but they definitely had a huge place for like that sound right there. That's samples. I think they're really famous for this song in particular being like monumental and giving people a lot of ideas for how to do electronic music.
Nice.
I mean, we're talking 1985. Like,
It's also got kind of like
Disco.
the slow Jesus and Mary Chain
yeah,
vibe to it
exactly.
a little bit. Shoegazy.
The only other like dance music in '85 is like Kraftwerk and then like Detroit techno and Chicago house.
Speaking of Detroit, I was gonna say this almost could not quite J Dilla, but like something like that, RJD2 or something.
Totally, yeah, exactly. This is the more down-tempo electronic music.
It's like a hip hop beat too.
Definitely.
But I guess hip hop beats are based on disco too. But so did DJing come before sampling?
Did what?
DJing come before sampling?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
that's kind of like a early form of sampling in a weird way, like live sampling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially how they thought of, like disco. They would take disco edits, right? That's how they created house music.
Mm-hmm.
DJs would have the same song on both turntables, and they would play like a section, and then they would flip over to the other record and play a section, and then they would just keep an infinite loop.
Yeah,
going.
loop of the breaks or whatever.
Yeah, a loop of whatever. But yeah, so that it would be this extended part of like a dancey part of disco instead of getting all the like cheese that sometimes comes along with disco.
Yeah.
All right, passing.
Oh, passing it back. We're still talking Michael Jackson. We're I feel like you're not liking my narrative I'm trying to force in here. You know, he's got the uncontrollable. Okay, what?
Real quick though, since I've started writing out my connections with talking about, which is hilarious because I feel like that's what you and I both do.
We're talking. Yeah.
All right, we're talking about.
Well, because it's like I feel like people forget, you know.
Yeah,
it's like we were talking. No, but that's true. We're talking.
I just realized that this episode I started doing it.
It's like our version
every
of
single one.
It's like
yeah, exactly.
Except we say a lot too.
All right, we're talking about Michael Jackson. We're talking about.
All right, let me go back into it. I'm going to start it the exact same way. All right, we're talking about Michael Jackson. We're talking how he's a pedophile. He's got an uncontrollable urge, but so many fans, they just want to keep on loving him. But to some fan groups, he has been, as they say, canceled. Talking about the 80s, talking about trickle-down economics, talking about Republicans in office.
Yeah.
Connecting the classic, weaving webs. So on this part of the journey, this is when we're tumbling down. We're thinking, we want to keep on loving you, but we're getting older, time's going on. We see the truth, and we're grappling with it. And without further ado, this is a story of a girl who cried a river. No, it's Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. No, it's Dixie Chicks, Landslide.
Wow.
Not an 80s band, but cover of an 80s band, Fleetwood Mac. I guess you could call Fleetwood Mac a 70s band.
I think did Landslide come out in the 80s?
No, it was 75.
Might have been 70s.
But I feel like, you know, if your brother's an 80s baby, they all blend together. I feel like Fleetwood Mac is an 80s band, though. So I'm hitting the 80s without actually playing 80s music, because 80s music sucks.
I'm seeing a theme here with you and, like, liberal country music.
Yeah, so just talking about getting canceled. I'm sure everyone remembers, but to all the Generation Zs out there, Dixie Chicks back in 2003 were playing in London 9 days before the U.S. invaded Iraq. Oh, speaking of invasion of Iraq, invasion of Cambodia, connecting back to Devo, invasion of Iran right now. So the lead vocalist, and also Dixie Chicks, two of them are sisters, kind of like the brothers in Devo. So really, this is connecting more to Devo, not REO Speedwagon, but I just had to take the honorary REO Speedwagon way on the way to the Dixie Chicks. Look, I'm afraid of changing because I built my life around you, Michael Jackson. But, you know. But time makes you older. Children get older. I'm getting older too. Well. In 2003, 9 days before the invasion of Iraq, the lead vocalist of the Dixie Chicks said, "We don't want this war, this violence, and we're ashamed that the President of the United States is from Texas." And after that, they were pretty much canceled by all of America because how dare you talk bad about President Bush, who saving the world from 9/11. So yeah, like they were denounced. Their albums were like broken and destroyed. Corporate broadcasting networks blacklisted them for the remainder of the Bush years.
Wait, what did they do? They opposed the war, and that was
all they said is we're ashamed that the President of the United States is from Texas.
Ooh. Yeah, you gotta be careful with that one.
Texas is strong.
Really? That's all they did?
This song was number 10 on the charts when they said that, and it fell to number 43 within a week, and then it dropped out the following week. And then she was kind of...
Oh, are they from Texas?
Yeah. So she was kind of giving an apology, and she said, I feel the president is ignoring the opinions of many in the U.S. and alienating the rest of the world. Kind of like Reagan, maybe, in the 80s.
Oh.
She didn't say kind of like Reagan. I added that.
No. I just didn't realize they're from Texas.
Yeah.
This changes everything.
Well, that's why she said she's ashamed that he's from his home state.
I see.
Anyways, maybe I didn't make that clear. But a couple days later, she issued an apology. She said, as a concerned American citizen, I apologize to President Bush because my remark was disrespectful. I feel that whoever holds that office should be treated with the utmost respect. We are currently in Europe and witnessing a huge anti-American sentiment as a result of the perceived rush to war. While war may remain a viable option, as a mother, I just want to see every possible alternative exhausted before children and American soldiers' lives are lost. I love my country. I'm a proud American.
Wow, they really got shafted on that whole thing because they were totally right.
It's crazy, though, too, comparing it to now, where it's
that
like
war was pointless.
Yeah, it's like now I feel like we do live in like right-wing America, but we also live in like weird left-wing, right-wing, constantly battling online America. And I feel like the left is like the whole like cancel culture or whatever. And then about like Michael Jackson, you can't listen to him because he did this, R. Kelly, you know? And then the right being like, oh, you got to separate the art from the artist. And it's just this like stupid argument that we'll probably look back and think whatever happened is probably like similar to the Dixie Chicks at this point. Maybe not, but you know what I'm saying?
So who canceled the Dixie Chicks then?
But that's the
the
thing,
left
like
is the one that cancels people.
No, it was the right who canceled them at the time.
So they both do it. Both sides do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like it's just the same thing back and forth being stupid, but I don't know. Anyways,
Totally.
But the only people who didn't cancel them was Lipton. They lost all their sponsorships except for Lipton iced tea. And then they did like a Lipton commercial when they came back. And they came back with that song, I'm Not Ready to Make Nice, you know?
Yeah.
But they were gone for like like the entire rest of the Bush administration.
That is nuts that they...
It just ruined them just saying that. It's like insane.
Whoa.
That, I mean, obviously I'm not comparing that at all to child molestation, but...
Well, yeah. We'll have to save it for our 2000s decade episode. But yeah, 9/11 is kind of a trip when you think about how it sort of brainwashed a lot of this country.
Yeah, totally.
Into thinking that there was some conflict and that we were like totally in the right to invade that boat.
Because America had never been
Iraq.
attacked before. Well, Pearl Harbor, but
on that scale, yeah.
Yeah, like mainland America with a like all-out attack. People thought they were like at war, so like we got to do something. But they didn't really.
Totally.
We didn't really understand terrorism, and the Bush administration kind of sold it to the people as this like elaborate lie. Yeah.
Totally.
But Bush, again, looking back at Bush, I feel like in comparison to Trump is always he looks better, you know? But like a month after this happened, he said in an interview with Tom Brokaw, who has Tom Brokaw been canceled yet or no? I feel like he has. Or is he dead?
He might have.
I don't know.
No, he's alive.
Anyways, he said the Dixie Chicks are free to speak their mind. They can say what they want to say. And freedom is a two-way street, kind of like REO Speedwagon Way.
Yeah.
He said, I don't care what the Dixie Chicks said. I want to do what I think is right for the American people. And if some singers or Hollywood stars feel like speaking out, that's fine. That's the great thing about America. Which I feel like is like totally like right-wing, like talking point of like freedom of speech, but I'm right.
Totally.
But also George Bush is
freedom
an
of
idiot.
speech, but I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah. And then so they were like booed off stage at the American Country Music Awards that year. And
damn.
Toby Keith won some award for, you know, I'm proud to be an American. Where at least I know I'm free, which is like the ultimate propaganda song of the time.
Totally.
And
selling it hard.
The Dixie Chicks wore a shirt that said FYTK, kind of like Michael Jackson, PYT, acronyms.
Wow.
And everyone immediately like was speculating that it meant fuck you, Toby Keith.
What did it mean?
It meant fuck you, Toby Keith. And I guess she said that she didn't think anyone would know it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a silly idea, especially with the internet.
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect launching point for my next connection, talking about the America invading countries, keeping in line with revolutionary gear in music in the 80s. I really think of the 80s as the decade where production on music changed forever. So we talked about digital sampling, and the next one I want to talk about is drum machines.
Ooh,
and
Ain't Got No
this
Soul.
song by Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Great example of Oberheim DMX, which is a famous drum machine, created in 1981. I realize I've been doing pretty much just UK pop, UK 80s pop.
I feel like the UK in the 80s was nice.
Firing on all cylinders for pop music. So I guess this music video filming,
His voice is so funny.
it's so good. I guess the filming session was a complete disaster, and the director was in tears by the second day.
Why?
They had like a crash on set, and one of like the teenagers on dirt bikes had flown off and hit a rock and was unconscious for like a couple minutes. Oh yeah. Look at those haircuts. Got the mullets. Or that guy does. I feel like the 80s was an era where it was okay to sing with kind of like a bassy voice.
Yeah. I kind of feel like people should bring that back.
Speaking of bassy voices, I also read that Thriller was kind of the first album where Michael Jackson tried to distance himself from only using his falsetto and try to sing more in an adult-sounding voice.
I saw too that he was trying to kind of move away from disco, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Or he was like discouraged by the reaction to his first debut solo album, Off the Wall.
But he's like 24, 25 when Thriller comes out, so he's like still super young.
Yeah, but he'd already been a pop star for what, 20 years? 18
I definitely feel like through doing this podcast, I've realized that you really hit your like musical, I don't want to say peak. Peak is the wrong word. Your ability to do like something really incredible gets less and less after you turn like 24 or 25.
I was literally thinking about this today, that what if music was like more like sports, where it's like after a certain age you just aren't allowed to participate anymore in like the major leagues, and you just have to become an analyst.
I don't think you can be a star. I don't think you can be a star in the same way.
You have to become an analyst like us. I mean,
yeah, or just like contribute a very specific thing, I think is the other option.
Yeah, no, I think you can still be like a star. Like, I don't think there's really an age, but it is like you're never going to be
a Michael Jackson.
You're never going to
be a Michael Jackson.
Well, you're never going to be really rebelling against something and like starting something new either.
Yeah.
If you're old, but you can still be good and people might like it or whatever. You know, you could always, speaking of the UK, you could always be a Susan Boyle.
But see, the difference to me is like Susan Boyle is a one and done.
No, that's true.
Where Michael Jackson's literally building a pillar for like.
But there's people who come into the game. REO Speedwagon didn't get popular until their 9th album. But there's people who come in the game like 30s and stuff too. I don't know. But I agree with you for the most part. You passing it back?
You got one more left?
Yeah.
It's your Guns N' Roses?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. All right, do one then.
All right, this will be a quick one. So we left talking about Dixie Chicks, Landslide, children get older. I'm getting older too. Past my prime of music. Also reflecting on Michael Jackson, coming to grips with it. And like the Dixie Chicks, Michael Jackson, they're all banned in DC. And this is Bad Brains, banned in DC.
So would you call this hardcore punk?
Yeah. Yeah!
I wanted to get a fact check on that, if that makes sense, that I had said, like, in the 80s, like, hardcore punk was a thing.
Yeah, well, Bad Brains, I'd say, is like one of the ultimate classic hardcore punk bands from DC. But
you get, like, Minor Threat, Black Flag.
Yeah, but Bad Brains is kind of different too. Kind of, I feel like how Guns N' Roses isn't just like a hair metal band or whatever. And like, just because they were all Rastafarians, like converted to Rastafarianism.
Wait, Bad Brains?
Yeah, so they have like reggae songs on their albums too, kind of like UB40.
But they're like white guys, right?
No, it's all black band.
Oh shit, crazy.
Speaking of like Michael Jackson, like apparently at the time it was like crazy that there was an all black hardcore punk band. And also like in this song there's like a guitar solo kind of like Guns N' Roses, which is like not very punk for the time. So they kind of like combined other styles. And I think they were trained in jazz or something.
Bad Brains is one of those bands that was always in my consciousness through like pop culture, or not pop culture, but just like kids in my high school having Bad Brains patches on their black sweatshirts.
So,
or like Vans doing a Bad Brains like edition sneaker.
I had a Bad Brains poster on my wall in college.
So I never really dove into them. I always kind of just like dismissed them.
So, well, speaking of canceling things, this song, Banned in DC, is about how they were banned from every venue in DC.
That's awesome.
During the, Reagan era, which is what a lot of the hardcore punk bands were rebelling against that, and also just against like the Guns N' Roses kind of over the top stuff. It was like stripped down.
Yeah.
Anyways, and like their album cover is a lightning bolt striking the Capitol building and crumbling it. So controversial, but now in the modern day, they're kind of canceled a little bit by the left because they were really homophobic and racist.
Bad Brains.
Yeah, I think like kind of connected with the Rastafarianism.
Yeah.
And there's a story about the Big Boys. Speaking of Texas, like Dixie Chicks, they were Bad Brains was on tour in Texas, and they stayed with the band the Big Boys, which is like one of the first ever gay punk bands.
Oh, okay.
And this with Randy Biscuit Turner, who's like a gay punk icon, but they got in like a big fight with him. And there's like all these rumors about what happened. They dropping F-bombs, and there's some story about how like they smoked all his weed and then stole all his weed and stuff, and gave him like there's some claims that they gave him like a manifesto about why being gay is bad. And then Bad Brains made a like super homophobic song called Don't Blow Bubbles. So
weird.
Pretty much they've always been kind of this weird, like they have that side of them, kind of like Michael Jackson and everything. So, part of my theme for today, I feel like you weren't really feeling it. I feel like you won the episode, but I'll pass it back. Or should we end with Michael Jackson, or?
No.
Okay.
Actually,
no, I'm going on a run.
What?
I'm going on a run.
All right.
So, I'm trying to pick myself up here, even though you might be hoping I'm picking one of the classics, like Welcome to the Jungle. I could have gone Welcome to the Jungle into It's Like a Jungle Sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going on to talking about how Grandmaster Flash brought the message and rap music got political and everything, but instead I went on this stupid cancellation rant. Now I'm losing my voice. I'm just going to end it here because I kind of think when I was listening to the album.
You think about me?
No, I was listening to Band in DC and like I love the song. It's like, you do me. Why I'm band in DC, you know, like that.
Yeah.
And then when I was listening to Appetite for Destruction, this song kind of stuck out to me because it's not one of the hits that I know.
Okay.
And so I was kind of hearing it with the like Sweet Child of Mine. I'm so used to it and everything. Paradise City, whatever, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like I know it. And this one I was kind of listening to with new ears.
Night Train.
And for some reason it sounds to me like Band in DC. I'll see what you think. It's my Michelle.
Nice.
You like this one?
Yeah, this one's pretty good.
You can't hurt me. Why I'm banned in DC.
Your daddy works in porno now that mommy's not around. She used to love her heroin, but now she's underground. So you stay out late at night and you do your coke for free, driving your friends crazy with your life's insanity. Well, you just can't tell. Well, my Michelle. Look out!
Don't you think that kind of sounds like Band in DC though?
Yeah. It's a good blend between the two things.
Yesterday was Tuesday, maybe Thursday you can sleep. But school starts much too early, and this hotel wasn't free.
This is the only song in the album that Slash played with a Gibson SG, which is my favorite guitar. So that might be why I like it too, subconsciously. Everything else he played with a Les Paul. And he used the same modified Marshall amp for the entire album, which I think is kind of cool. Same settings. No need to change it up, just distortion, baby.
Yep. He does have this really clean, like, distortion. I'd be very curious to see what his, like, rig setup is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he changed the distortion or whatever, but apparently it's just, like, the same amp.
But even, like, the way he does his wah is, like, so subtle.
Yeah. He just has, like, a huge, like, wall of sound.
Guns N' Roses is like this dream tale for any like band trying to play like clubs in LA in the 80s.
Totally.
Just to go from like gigging across the clubs on Sunset to then just being one of the best selling rock bands of all time.
I was going to say, like, I can't even imagine what Sunset Strip was like when they were really...
I bet it was so nuts.
Yeah.
Michelle!
I wonder if I would have liked it or hated it.
People just doing coke everywhere.
Yeah. And, like, the streets were packed, I always heard, and stuff. All right, pass it back.
All right, so talking about Tears for Fears, everybody wants to rule the world. And I'll keep it simple. That's just human nature. But I don't really want to play that song. That's why I didn't want to end on that. But anyways, there's been some controversy, I guess, that Michael Jackson's song "The Way You Make Me Feel" has some similarities to "Everybody Wants to Rule the World." But to get a little bit of payback, in 1993, Tears for Fears went ahead and sampled Michael Jackson for one of their songs. So, should we do Beat It? Do you want to hear Beat It?
I want to hear your choice, man. Pick whatever you're putting.
You want to hear Human Nature? That's fine.
I want to hear whatever song you're going to play.
Great hip-hop sample. I think Nas, or Premier sampled this one for Nas.
Ooh. For Lil Nas, right? For Lil Nas X? Wow. I heard he has a new song called Panini.
It ain't hard to tell. That was what the sample was. For Nas.
Probably picked the worst song in the album, but that we literally discussed this is the worst song in the album. But
it's not the worst. It's definitely not the worst.
No, actually, Human Nature is pretty good.
It's decent. The Lady in My Life.
I was very skeptical right here, but when and plus this is one that you kind of hear around, you know? It's like a popular song. You know, pedophilia, it's just human nature.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
It's just an uncontrollable urge.
Uncontrollable urge. People just want to conquer things.
You know, you got your Jesus and Mary chain, you know? Catholic priest.
Why does he do me that way? That's what those kids are saying.
Those pretty young things.
Oh, God. All right, what are we doing for next episode?
I feel like you got to pick it.
All right, why don't we do soccer, World Cup?
All right, I love it.
I guess you could be World Cup anthems or something.
World Cup. I feel like just
World Cup. Keep it open.
Yeah. Could be another coffee episode very easily.
Maybe coffee. Maybe I'm going to pick songs from countries that I want to be in my World Cup final. Wow. I don't know where we're going to go with it.
It could be anything because we connect the classics. You never know what we're going to bring to the table. Like today I tried to do a convoluted Michael Jackson thing. I think I lost. I think my songs are good though. I think the playlist when we listen back is going to be
songs
great.
Were great.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you picking really good songs.
REO Speedwagon. Can't forget that. Champaign Illinois band.
REO Speedwagon, I think, was your weakest connection from a musical standpoint.
But hey,
she had the champagne. You had the champagne.
It doesn't matter what we think because the listeners pick the winner. So go on to the surveymonkey. Tell us who you think won, and if you respond, we'll read your answer on the air.
I'm gonna find out who responded to the last one and Venmo them $1
for their choice.
Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that was good.
Beastie
that was
Boys,
nice. If you're listening right now, tweet at us at CTCPod, and we'll Venmo you $1.
I read on Wiki that Bad Brains opened up for Beastie Boys on their Ill Communication tour.
You know what? For Weaving That Webs, tweet at us at CTCPod, whoever you are, and I'll Venmo you $2. You know, it's just human nature. I'm just kind. I'm excited for the World Cup episode.
Shit, I didn't even talk about what I wanted to say about human nature. I was surprised to learn that Michael Jackson, even with like producing an album like Thriller, wasn't getting much like promotion on MTV because he was black.
Yeah.
And so I think he really broke barriers for a lot of. The thing I was reading said that Prince wouldn't have been as famous if it wasn't for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So I think he doesn't. I mean, obviously in the black community, he gets a lot of credit for that. But like you were saying, white people I don't think sometimes realize what he had to break through to.
And then it's like
get his stardom.
Even on like slow jams,
he was perfect. He was immaculate. You know, like from a performance and artist standpoint, he really did everything on such an exceptional level, and he was like barely able to break through. Whereas you got someone like Guns N' Roses who are just fucking jack-offs, and they, you know, able to be up there with him.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening.
Well, thanks for listening. See you guys for 35.
All right. Bye.
sunny afternoon. Jungle life, I'm living in the open. Native beat that carries on. Burning bright, I fought a blood to signal to the sky. I said I wonder, there's a message got to you.